Hello, everybody. This is Getrude Matshe here in Wellington, New Zealand, and welcome back to the Her Story podcast. I'm graced with yet another amazing woman coming to me all the way from Colombia. Welcome to the Her Story podcast.
Thank you so much.
Where you're based, how old you are, and share your story today.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. My name is Melcher. I live in Medellin, Colombia, but I'm originally from the United States, and I recently turned 40 years old.
And what story are you going to share with us today?
So, with this question of making the impossible possible, the thought that always comes to mind to me in this moment is actually this word possible. Possible, as I originally defined it in my video to you, is like, I did it already. But I was just thinking about it as possible potential. And that's actually what's been happening for me right now. So I am a very small business owner, sort of an independent entrepreneur, mompreneur, if this is a word, supporting women in cultivating their relationship with themselves here in Colombia and internationally online. But that makes it sound like it's big. It's not. It's really, really small. But I have the internet, so I can reach anybody. And the story I want to tell right now, the grasping and the chasing, the story of, the success story, right? Like, here are the things that you can do to become the person you want to be and have the reach and influence and this and that, reach the millions of people and change the thousands of lives. And even just saying that, I can feel my heart racing, and there's definitely a part of me that wants that, to share my story and my mission with lots and lots of people. But in so many ways, I think for so many of us, it does feel impossible, right? Who am I? I'm just one person, yada, yada, all the stories, the other stories that we could,
yes,
the other stories that we totally tell. And some of them are really loud and well repeated, like troughs, like, oh, I know this story. I've been telling myself this story since I was 7. Like, let's sing along. And so in some ways, we could actually divert to just the power of the stories that we tell, right?
So tell me one. I want one.
So thinking about the shift from something being impossible to being possible. Mm-hmm. What I'm experiencing right now and the story that I'm living right now is the subtle and the profound shift from impossible to possible is really not grand gestures, not huge accomplishments, but pausing, being present, being kind with oneself, primarily. The story goes, I was writing a book, I was chasing the dream, I was building the platform, I was making the connections, and it all felt empty and hollow, and I was chasing something external. And it felt more and more impossible the more that I did it. And I was exhausted, and I felt like the guidance that I was providing others was false, largely because I wasn't following it even myself. Like, I wasn't practicing what I knew to be true.
Okay.
And So the story that I'm living right now is this entire month, I am creating space. I live in a place where it's basically always summer. It really doesn't matter what day of the year it is. And I was born in a place that had really clear seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. You couldn't escape them. They were so obvious. And life had those rhythms built into it. And I really appreciate and miss those rhythms. I live in a place where sometimes it rains and sometimes it's sunny, and that's it.
Okay.
But I think we're also living in a global culture that, like my external environment, is just always summer energy, just chasing, running, working hard, like the day is long. And in summer we have that unending energy. We have it. But when we run on summer energy all the time, without resting, without pausing, without relaxing, we get to the point that I had just gotten to at the end of February, where I felt hollow and exhausted and without inspiration or without even hope that it meant anything and that it would come to fruition. And honestly, after taking 10 days, it's the 15th of March, but something shifted for me 6 days ago, after simply taking 10 days. I was clearing my schedule. I was being slow and drinking tea and lighting candles. And it doesn't matter what the things are, but I was doing my things, the things that made me feel safe, that made me feel nourished, that cultivate love in me for me. And the difference now is that it's not even that anything is possible, but I know it's possible, right? Like hope restored. And so what was impossible 2 weeks ago, based on my perception and my energy levels, now it is transformed.
So it sounds to me like,
and my desires have even shifted, but
you had to slow down to speed up.
Completely, absolutely, and always. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the magic happen in those moments of stillness.
We think we need to go faster,
no,
right?
We don't.
Don't at all.
And that's one of the things that I'm so learning in curating the Her Story conference, is that less is more. It's about getting
better
with what you want.
Yes.
It's a very interesting observation that you bring this up today, because I've been in the doing for a long time, and it's made me ill. It made me very, very ill. I ended up with congestive heart failure, and these last 2 years have been about being more still and deliberate, and in, I guess, learning how to use my energy. You mentioned self-care.
Yes.
I am kind to everybody else but me, or was. I'll take that back.
We usually are. This is our epidemic, our pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Especially as women, we're wired to nurture, we're wired to care for, we're wired to think of everybody else but ourselves. And going back to that point of self-care, because if you're not okay, nobody else is okay around you.
And I remember hearing that when I was young, but it sounded cliche and I sort of didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I heard it and I heard it, acknowledged it, and chose intentionally to reject it. I said, maybe that's true for you, but it's not true for me. I'm different. I don't need to be refilled or regenerated. I got this. some sort of like, I had to prove myself.
Yes.
And I was a teacher for a long time, and it was just drawing from this empty well. And I was like, why am I sort of crabby and bitter and impatient all the time? And that's why. That was it. That was why. And earlier I mentioned seasons. So I was intentionally creating winter for myself. Like I needed winter.
Hibernate.
Exactly. I needed a cave. I needed to hibernate. I can't do anything about the sunny, glorious weather, so I will enjoy it. But I needed quiet. I needed a whole month of it because I hadn't been refilling the well. And I love the seasons and I love the moon, because I look at the moon now as this concept for reminding myself and reminding women how to nurture ourselves. I think of the full moon as this time of bright light, full give. Okay. Yes. The moon is well lit I think it started yesterday. It'll go full moon next week, and then it'll be half lit again for another week. Mm-hmm. And then it starts getting darker and turning inward, and the light's shining somewhere else and we can't see it. Yes. And so I look at the moon to remind me that 2 whole weeks of every month are for me. It's not a day a month or a day a year. Yeah. It's like really the intention behind those 2 weeks. And I've obviously forgotten that recently, but that I'm taking this whole month so that next moon cycle I can. And that doesn't mean that I'm not nice to my neighbors or that I don't feed my kids for 2 weeks. Like, of course I do these things. Yes. I always do these things. But the underlying intention, I can take 5 minutes and really, it doesn't need all day to fill my well. It can be done in these
small little.
I'm going to light a candle. I'm going to stir this soup a little bit longer, whatever it is.
Just be a little bit more deliberate in your movements, in your actions, in your doing.
Well, and the profound, subtle shift, like we mentioned earlier, the difference between impossible and possible is so subtle. It's so subtle and so huge, right? Yes. But that's the difference. And I just want to shift the energy for those 2 weeks. It's not like everyone knows that I'm off duty and I'm peacing out. No, but it's a powerful, subtle shift within myself to be like, oh yeah, I'm here too.
Oh, so, I love that.
That's my story.
What you know, if you were to talk to your younger self a month ago, a year ago, what 3 nuggets of wisdom would you tell her from what you've learned?
The younger self a month ago needed to be reminded that it is absolutely okay to go off the rails and totally do it wrong. It is okay to burn out. It is okay to get sick, because every time we find out what doesn't work for us, we figure out, hopefully we have the opportunity to figure out what does.
Yes.
It's an invitation towards something that works. Because the old story can look at, oh, you did it wrong, you did too much, you chased too many things, as another opportunity to like tear it down. Yeah. To make myself feel worse. Yes. And it's absolutely not. That's not my story anymore. That everything I do, quote unquote, wrong is like, cool. Like, what about that? Like, how did that happen? And what's in there? Like, let's not toss it away and reject it and beat ourselves with it. Let's just like, oh yeah. Oh, I see. Yep. Okay. Looking for, here are the gold stars that you were following. Mm-hmm. Are they truly yours? Like, were you chasing your passion, or were you chasing the passion that you think you're supposed to have, or that somebody else gave you? Or were you just chasing your own passion too fast or too hard, or, you know? Yeah, and the much younger self, yeah, it'll all be fine. Go in all the different directions you need to go to find the current one. And the current one is probably just also a phase towards the next one, that there is no destination, there is no arrival.
Wrong.
There is no right and wrong. There is no like, oh, now you've done it, now your story ends.
Yeah.
Right? I think I was told myself for a long time that if I did X, Y, and Z, and I did them really well, and I did it long enough and hard enough, then I would have been on the right path and I would arrive, right? That there is a destination and that somehow the music rises and the story ends and all is well after that, and you never have to pay your electric bill after that, and, you know, or trim your toenails. There's like nothing else has to be done after that. It's all magic. And then I looked at the story and I was like, well, the only thing that when the story ends, I think I'm dead. Which for me, I mean, some people would be like, wow, that's so morbid. But for me, that's so cool. I'm like, no, I don't want my story to end in the next 3 to 5 years. They're like, what's your business plan for the next 3 to 5 years? It's like, it's just a chapter, right? I don't know. So, yeah.
So if time is an illusion and your past, your present, and future exists in the same timeline, what would you tell your future self?
Play. Have so much fun. I would tell my future self exactly what I told my 3-year-old daughter a couple of days ago. My father's coming to visit, and she loves her grandfather. And she said to me, she's like, I want next week to be right now. And I said, yeah, I understand. I know that you want him to be here. And I don't think time is an illusion, but I think we can speed it up and we can slow it down. And we can slow it down by thinking about all the things that aren't right now. Like, oh, I want this next week. And oh, I want to be at that other place. That slows the time down. And we can speed up time by having fun doing what we're doing. And this is what I told her. I said, like, so let's play and let's dance and let's sing and draw and cry and kick and scream. And let's just like do now, right now. Because if we do that, then it'll be next week before you know it. So
it's such a beautiful piece of advice. Thank you.
All I have to do is remind myself that, but yes.
Thank you so much. I know that there is a woman out there who's tuned into this podcast who is going to hear you speak, who's going to see a reflection of herself in you. This is why I'm doing this series. And is going to come to one of the conferences to meet you. So are you going to just be speaking in Colombia, or do you have a passion to travel to other parts of the world to speak? Where can people find you going forwards?
Excellent. So I've committed to myself and to my daughter to stay close to home for the most part for the next couple of years. But I do love travel and can see myself and have scheduled up to 4 trips for conferences or retreats opportunities each year. So I am available online. I host women's circles online and one-on-one mentoring online. So that can be anytime, anywhere. I will be at the Colombia Her Story conference, and I'm interested in exploring possibilities of being at another.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I just
absolutely my pleasure
for the conversation we had before this and after. And I look forward to hearing your full story at the conference.
Thank you. It's a
Very
pleasure to meet you in person. And yeah, thank you for letting me share my story.
awesome. Take care. Keep in touch.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.